At 3:15 p.m. local time, the radio room aboard the USS Mason has just received a distress signal that will go down in U.S. naval history. Tanker overseas Santorini is under attack. 7 fast boats flying Houthi flags are closing in at high speed, approaching at a perpendicular angle, RPK machine guns already firing into the hull. The intent of this Middle Eastern militant group is clear: turn the Bab el-Mandeb Strait into their own private Disneyland. But they are about to understand why Americans do not get free health care. Heavy seas make the distress signal intermittent, but the situation is clear enough. U.S. asset under attack. The commanding officer of the USS Mason locks his eyes onto the radar screen inside the Combat Information Center at the heart of the destroyer. A dark room filled with radar displays and tactical screens showing the position of the overseas Santorini, 14 miles away. At maximum speed, the USS Mason would need more than 30 minutes to catch up and turn the Houthi boats into shark food. But the problem is, the destroyer cannot abandon its position. That is why at 3:17 p.m., a pair of A-10 Warthogs stationed at Camp Lemonnier, 75 miles away, fire up their TF-34GE-100 engines. 2 pilots in the cockpit give a thumbs up as the indicator shows 8,160 pounds of firepower ready, and air traffic control clears them for takeoff. In essence, the machine they are flying is considered an outdated monster in the eyes of the US Congress. A 50-year-old aircraft, designed in the 1970s to hunt Soviet tanks across European plains. They say the A-10 is too old for modern combat. But this old warhorse is about to prove why every U.S. Air Force pilot ranks the Warthog among their top 3 favorite aircraft. The ground crew signals the pilots for takeoff using standard NATO hand signals, complex gestures that require absolute precision in interpretation. The turbofan engines lift this airborne tank off the ground with 18,000 pounds force of thrust and a cruising speed of 450 miles per hour. Their mission is simple: race to the coordinates marked by the destroyer, empty the 30mm cannon, and leave, a job they do more often than they see their wives. At 3:29 p.m., at an altitude of 5,500 feet, the A-10 pair is now only 12 miles from the target. On the HUD, small signal clusters begin separating clearly, 7 hostile contacts. Pilot 1 lowers the nose of the Warthog slightly. Altitude begins dropping from 5,500 feet. Speed remains constant. Distance continues collapsing. Within seconds, all systems switch to combat mode. The HUD shifts to maritime attack configuration. CCIP displays the predicted impact point for 3,900 rounds per minute of 30mm fire. Pilot 2 shifts right, opening a diagonal attack angle, splitting into a pincer, maintaining enough separation to avoid overlapping firing paths. On each boat, the thermal signatures of Mercury Marine engines begin to smoke after running at maximum output for extended minutes. Inside the A-10 cockpit, only one short command is spoken: visual contact, 7 boats, weapons hot. The response from Pilot 2, his childhood friend, comes immediately after: cleared hot. On board the USS Mason, the CIC is anything but quiet. A tactical officer tracks every movement vector of the 7 boats on the display. Speed, heading, distance to the tanker, everything updates in real time. The data is pushed directly through the tactical link. Not orders, information, allowing pilots to make faster and more precise decisions. Eliminating the risk of misidentifying targets among hundreds of fishing vessels in the strait. Altitude now drops below 3,000 feet. The attack angle is locked. The 2 A-10s enter the final phase, where error margins exist only in fractions of a second. They slide into the attack axis, nose down, flight path straight as a drawn line. Pilot 1 has his target: 1 calm breath, 1 decisive trigger pull. The GAU-8/A Avenger roars. A stream of 30mm rounds tears into the sea, carving it apart. Even with the naked eye, white artificial wave columns erupt, created by depleted uranium impacts. But 1 second of firing is all he has, before physics begins pushing the nose off target in return. The theoretical 3,900 rounds per minute exists only on paper. The pilot is trained to fire in 1-second bursts, releasing 70 rounds of 30mm, then pausing briefly before repeating until no targets remain. The first boat disappears almost instantly. Its hull shatters into fragments, engine dead. A white trail of water stretches behind it, then stops completely. Right behind, Pilot 2 enters from the right. A diagonal firing angle cuts across the formation. No confirmation needed. No repetition required. Trigger pulled. This time, the burst sweeps across two boats closing in on the tanker's side. Vertical water plumes erupt in sequence. Then hulls tear apart. One flips sideways. One loses control, spins, then slowly sinks. Below, the boat group reacts. Two boats accelerate to maximum speed, heading straight for the tanker's hull. PKM machine guns open fire. Small caliber rounds cannot penetrate the thick hull, but they are not aiming at it. They are targeting the deck, equipment, anything that can ignite. A stream of sparks erupts from piping sections. A fire ignites near the mid-deck. Inside the tanker, stability is gone. Alarms blare. Fire doors automatically seal compartment by compartment. Crew evacuates the deck, moving inside under emergency procedures. If the fire reaches the fuel storage area, the A-10s will be too late. In the air, both A-10s pull hard on the stick. The TF-34GE-100 engines maintain stable thrust as the aircraft banks left into a tight turn, keeping the target in sight. Pilot 1 completes the turn first. The nose drops almost immediately as the target re-enters the HUD. No search needed. No reacquisition. On target. Pilot 2 follows, slightly offset right, setting up another cross-angle attack. Their flight paths do not intersect. No one blocks the other. Distance drops below 0.6 miles. Pilot 1 pulls the trigger first. The GAU-8/A Avenger roars again. This time, the stream of fire comes straight down, nearly piercing the surface before tearing into the boat's hull. The boat is hit right at the center. No explosion, just a break. The bow dips, the stern kicks up, then disappears. Almost at the same moment, Pilot 2 opens fire. The second burst cuts across the last boat, accelerating away. A white trail stretches across the water, then the hull is torn apart from the rear. The engine explodes. Speed drops to 0 in under 2 seconds. The boat spins sideways, slides briefly, then flips over. Everything happens in less than 5 seconds. Now look at it from a mathematical perspective. An interceptor missile costs around $5 million. Using it against a $50,000 speedboat creates a 100-to-1 cost ratio, completely in favor of the Houthis. A Harpoon missile, cheaper at about $1.5 million, is designed to track targets like cruisers, not composite hull speedboats moving at 92 miles per hour among dozens of commercial vessels. The F/A-18E Super Hornet, the carrier's primary strike aircraft, costs about $30,000 per flight hour and flies too fast to visually distinguish a pirate boat from a fishing vessel among hundreds of civilian ships. The Navy has a tool designed for this type of fight, the MH-60R Seahawk helicopter. It carries Hellfire missiles and a cabin-mounted machine gun. It can patrol, identify, and engage small surface targets. But its airframe is little more than cardboard when facing terrorist machine guns at low altitude. The Seahawk is a scalpel, but in this environment, the Air Force needs a chainsaw. That is why the GAU-8 on the A-10 exists here. With 2 short bursts, each lasting 1 second, a pilot typically fires about 130 rounds. Each round costs roughly $137 for depleted uranium armor-piercing ammunition. 70 rounds into a fiberglass speedboat cost under $10,000, but destroying a similar target with an SM-6 missile costs up to $5.3 million. That is a 500 times cost advantage. Not a small improvement, but a complete shift in combat economics. But at 3:45 p.m., the HUD is not clean yet. 2 small signals, hidden within spray and debris, suddenly reappear. Not 1, but 2 surviving boats. One with 4 people. One with 5. The distance from the tanker has increased, but their movement is no longer offensive. They turn outward, then stop for a brief moment. A moment just long enough to do something else. Pilot 1 sees it first. Below, both boats slow suddenly. One man stands at the bow, then another. They are no longer holding machine guns. They pull out something else. Long tubes. Shoulder fired. Rapid elevation. RPGs. Both boats act almost in sync, weapons raised, not at the tanker anymore, but into the sky, directly at the 2 A-10s circling at low altitude. Distance now, under 0.6 miles. Altitude, under 2,000 feet. No longer completely safe. Pilot 2 reacts first. Brake! Brake! RPG! No time to think. Both A-10s snap out of their flight path immediately. One rolls left, the other pulls hard right, completely breaking the firing solution the shooters just established. Below, two rockets launch almost simultaneously. White smoke trails shoot upward. Unstable trajectory, no guidance. Just a straight line based on luck. But at this range, luck is enough to kill. The first rocket veers left, passing behind A-10 number 1 by only a few dozen meters. The second flies higher, passes over A-10 number 2, then detonates mid-air after losing stability. A silence lasts exactly 1 second. Then everything returns to its true nature. Both A-10s have cleared the firing line. There is no warning, but the cockpit is not silent. A short tone sounds. Altitude warning relative to terrain. Pilot 1 has just completed a brake maneuver lower than expected. The margin is only a few hundred feet. That is the difference between a successful evasion and a direct impact with the ocean. The engines roar. The nose lifts out of the danger zone just in time. Half a second later, the A-10 would not have been hit by the RPG. It would have killed itself. But now, the target is no longer fast boats. It is the men who just fired back. Both aircraft pull up. Altitude climbs rapidly beyond the effective range of shoulder-fired weapons like RPGs. Speed stabilizes. Flight path is clean. They separate for a beat, then turn back. This time, they do not descend. No need. The targets are fully exposed. The remaining two boats have no speed, no formation. Just two moving points on open water. Pilot 1 switches weapon configuration. 30mm cannon, off. Rocket arm, on. Under the wings, Hydra 70 rockets are ready. Rockets in, he confirms with his wingman. Both A-10s enter the attack axis from medium altitude. No deep dive, just enough angle to ensure stable impact trajectory. Distance closes rapidly. Pilot 1 fires first. A salvo of rockets leaves the pod, trailing white smoke down toward the water. No need for perfect accuracy, just area placement. The rockets impact around the four-man boat. The sea erupts into a chain of vertical water columns. One hits directly. The explosion tears the structure apart. The boat disappears in fire and water. Almost simultaneously, Pilot 2 fires. The second salvo spreads wider, saturating the five-man boat attempting to accelerate. Two detonate near the hull. The third hits center mass. Pressure and fragmentation split the boat in half. The bow lifts, then sinks immediately. No movement, no targets. Only two thin smoke trails fading across the surface, and water that has just been torn apart, now slowly settling. The two A-10s do not circle again. They hold altitude. Fly straight over the area. Visual confirmation. Mission complete. The fire on the deck of the overseas Santorini is extinguished within minutes. The piping system is not breached. The vessel retains operational capability and continues its route. The crew suffers no serious casualties, a few minor injuries from shrapnel, but the situation never escalates beyond control. 7 fast boats, a complete attack formation, gone in under 10 minutes. That is why the A-10 has never truly been obsolete.